Welcome to Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network. Your home for the latest news from the National Lacrosse League and indoor lacrosse. Now, let's talk some lacrosse with your hosts, Jake Elliott and Evan Schemenauer.
Good Tuesday to lacrosse fans. Welcome back on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network for Lacrosse Classified, episode number 70. Jake Elliott, Evan Schemenauer back with you once again, and a lot to talk about this week. As we got two great guests, let's talk about those right off the top here, Evan. History about to be made on Lacrosse Classified, as we will have NLL crew chief, head referee Todd Labranche on the program in about 40 minutes from now. And we'll have Ben McIntosh of the Saskatchewan Rush. He was named first star in that big 17-7 victory on Saturday night in the Tune. So Benny Mac and Todd Labranche coming up on the program. Of course, we're going to have Who You Had recap Week 15 in the NLL. 8 games on the docket. We're going to have a look at Week 16 when we get to Who You Got, Quick Sticks, Under Review. It's all coming up here on episode 70 of Lax Class. Evan, what's happening on a Monday back in Saskatoon?
Oh, nice sunny day, and just reflecting back on this week, I mean, the weekend of the comeback, we saw so many comebacks. We're talking 6-7 goals down at some stages, and perhaps 2, or actually I'd say that 4 of the most beautiful goals of the year, with Ryan Lee, Mike Messenger, and 2 from Callum Crawford that were the exact same thing.
Yeah, wild stuff. I retweeted that Callum Crawford clip where they kind of did a split screen of his 2 goals where we'll talk about it. But he runs directly at the crease, leaps up into the air, so by the time he shoots the ball, he's almost on top of the goaltender, but he goes up, corkscrew, 5-hold, picture perfect, exactly the same goal shot, everything. It's wild to see when it's side by side like that.
And the fact that he had that much air to actually pull off 2 fakes and go 5-hole and get the ball across the line before he hit the ground.
Well,
it's crazy.
I've said it for a long time that Callum is an innovator in that regard. Like, everybody does the horizontal crease dive, and Ryan Lee's kind of taken after Callum here a little bit. But Callum was kind of the first guy to run at the crease, and instead of dive across it, he would jump up as high or he still does. So he jump up as high as he can to give himself as much time. He enters the cylinder, which is completely legal. So by the time he shoots the ball, he is right on top of the goaltender, but he's got so much time to think about what he wants to do as he's going up into the air. I don't know. I don't know why more guys aren't doing this. He's been doing it for a long time, and he's darn good at it, and also leading the league in scoring, by the way. So I don't know. I think it's something you're going to start to see more guys do, and Ryan Lee, who had just a miraculous dunk shot.
It's funny, Curtis Dixon's tweet there saying, "It's too bad Tyler Digby didn't throw a better pass." That
yeah, right.
Right. He had to literally dive to catch the pass and still pot it before he hit the ground.
Unreal,
crazy
goal, for sure. Beautiful sunny day here in BC as well as we record on a Monday afternoon. A lot of games to talk about, Evan, so why don't we get into it right off the get-go. Week 15 in the NLL was a big one, and hats off to you, Schemenauer. You went 7-1. I went 5-3. You take a 2-game lead back heading into Week 16. Well done, going 7-1.
Yeah, so as you always recall, You got to brag quite a bit when you actually started to catch up. Now you're behind again.
I didn't brag all that much. You were the one talking 99% and all of that sort of stuff. Bottom line is, though, Evan, 7-1 was not good enough to win Week 15.
There were 2 8-0s.
2 8-0. So once again, Evan, you remain winless in Who You Got weekly action.
Had I gone 8-0, there would have been, 17 or 18 people that would have gone 8-0.
That's incredible right there to think about that. But you didn't, Evan. You went 7-1, and two people went 8-0, and the person that had the tiebreaker, what was the tie? Just one tiebreaker needed?
No, 3 tie breaks, because they both had Georgia as the top scoring team. They both had Lyle Thompson as the top scorer. So it came down to goals, and actually neither of them were ever close, but I think one was like 85 and the other was 204. So the 204 ended up being the closer of the two.
Well, maybe we need to explain this once again, because it is the total of, so if there's 8 games, that's 16 teams that are scoring goals, correct?
Correct.
So you have to average it out what you think a score is. And I've told people this is kind of my strategy, what I do. I start at 20. So if there's 8 games and I'm starting at 20, 160 is kind of my baseline number when I think about the total amount of goals that are going to be scored. Then I kind of look and go, okay, this is a high-scoring team. These are 2 really, really good goaltenders. And I kind of go, oh, it might be lower than a 20-goal total. It might be higher than a 20-goal total. And I kind of come to a consensus that way. So there's a little tip out there for you who you got listeners. Jimmer might need it the most, Evan. I saw his goal total prediction, and mind you, I say this tongue-in-cheek, as Jimmer was on a path.
Trying to lose.
Yeah, he was on a path to go 0-8. So he, and no disrespect here to Ryan Dilks, he picked Dilksy as the top scorer. He picked like 521 goals or something like that. He almost got it done.
Well, and the thing was, he screwed up on the one game I screwed up on, which was Georgia-Philly.
So he went 1-7.
He went 1-7, and he had picked Philly, predicting Georgia was going to win, and at, what was it, 7-1 or 6-1?
Yeah,
it looked like a pretty good pick. And
well, I told him, I said, well, if you're capable of going 1-7, close to going 0-8, then if you just did what you thought the other way, you would have been in the running for the weekly winner. Which he's been before, but it's been the tiebreakers for the Jimmer that have cost him dearly. So he's a little demoralized, a little dejected. He wanted 0-8, didn't happen for him. Too bad. Try again next week if that's what you want to do. Now, Evan, I said we should get into who we had, and we need to do that because we got Ben McIntosh coming up here shortly. And it's brought to you by Stampede Tack and Western Wear. As the teams are making the turn for the home stretch of the season, Stampede Tack and Western Wear is just getting ready for spring. New arrivals coming in weekly: boots, jeans, hats, outerwear, motorcycle leathers, and accessories. You need to make a stop by the store out there in Cloverdale, or you can shop online at stampede.ca, where shopping online is still shopping local. So if you're over there in Halifax or wherever, check out stampede.ca and check out the new spring collection coming in there out to Cloverdale. Evan, where do we begin? We had 8 games. We got to start with the one at Philadelphia. No, where are we going here? Yeah, we are going to Philadelphia. Yep. New England at Philadelphia. It was an early game here. I love this. I was in Saskatoon over the weekend. We finished up morning shoot around and get back, get a workout in, and next thing you know, NLL lacrosse on in the middle of the day.
Well, and that was the thing, is we've had situations where there have been 4 games going on at the same time. So on Saturday night, there really wasn't much overlap other than 2 of the games for
and they even pushed that start time up a little bit, I think, to accommodate that night. So New England at Philadelphia. I had the Wings. You had the Black Wolves. This was a good lacrosse game. Season series on the line as well. Black Wolves come up with a big road win as they continue to be hot. Number 1 team in the National Lacrosse League. Black Wolves, 9-7.
And a critical win for a whole other reason, and that is New England has now won the season series. They have the tie break. Philly's going to have a very difficult time now leapfrogging New England because Philly's only got 4 games left at this stage. A little bit of an imbalance in the schedule, but what a goaltending clinic that went on in this game. Both guys just lighting it up. And even those 2 Crawford goals, I mean, Hagen's played it perfect. And you just happen to, you cover the top on a guy's that tall and see what happens with the 5-hole. But this is the thing that has happened again, is that twice between these two teams, Philly has held New England under 10 and lost. So a little bit of a concern. Here's an interesting stat, and I can't remember the last time we talked about this. We had Joe Nardella on the program last week. He held Trevor Baptiste to 11 for 20.
Yeah, did a really good job, didn't he? I'm telling you, this guy's legit, man. Like, and he can play D. He's coming out west to play a summer of WLA lacrosse. Like, this guy's all about the box game now, and I love it. And you know, he's got his own company, Face Off Factory, so he obviously knows how to take a draw or two as well. But that's a nice battle there against Baptiste. Big win for the Black Wolves as they get past the Wings. Now, moving along, if you recall, the Riptide have one win this season. It came against the Georgia Swarm on their home floor. Another chance for win number 2. But the Swarm are starting to hit their stride a little bit here, Evan. 11-7. Mind you, this game was like 4-2 late third quarter for the Riptide, and then Georgia woke up for the final 15.
Yeah, it was, 2-1 at the half. I was looking at the scoreboard like, this must be early second quarter because there just can't be. But 2-1 New York at the half, 6-4 at the end of the third. And I honestly had to turn this game on while I'm at the SaskTel Center and just kind of glance at it once in a while because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Georgia pulls it off in the fourth quarter. You know, Lyle Thompson put the team on his back towards the end, and they get the win. A tough one for New York, but you cannot be disappointed with that performance.
Nope, good effort there from the Riptide, and they come up short. But if they play like that coming down the stretch, they're going to get a couple more wins here. I'm convinced that they're close. They're not. They're getting closer. They're getting closer. Saskatchewan hosted Vancouver, and Evan, this was a tough game for the Warriors, and this is Saskatchewan, if you'll recall, losing that game against Toronto, who were really beaten up coming into tune, and they kind of felt like they had that game up 6-2 at halftime. They let their foot off the pedal. Toronto clawed back in and steal a win, if you will, from Saskatchewan. I don't want to use the word steal because that's not the right word, but they earned that victory. But it was ripe for the picking for Saskatchewan, who have struggled on their home floor up until this point, and they lost that one. So you knew, where I'm going with all that is that you knew this was going to be an ultra-motivated Saskatchewan Rush team that wanted to get a home win for their fans against the incoming Vancouver Warriors, who were coming off a tough loss against the Swarm on their home floor. And this one was never really close. 17-7 the final.
Yeah, and 6-1, 7-1 early on. Yeah, it was a must-win for the simple reason that if you lost 3 or 4 at home, you need to get that crowd motivated to get into the barn. This was the way to do it. Now, the one thing is that they didn't have that killer instinct before, and like Jeff Shatler said post-game, they put the foot on the throat this game and started to push it. Big performance from Mark Matthews, another one from Ryan Keenan, another one from Ben McIntosh. Here's one of the keys, and we'll see if they continue down this road, is that Connor Robinson was a healthy scratch. They went to 3 righties on the floor, 2 lefties, back to their familiar formation. It seemed to work. Will it work 2 weeks in a row? We'll see. And we got to talk about one of the goals of the year from Mike Messenger, who picks up a loose ball. Poor Logan Schutz is trying to chase him down, and Messenger with the ball absolutely lights him up. And I'll tell you this, I sit on the opposite side of the floor from the cameras. That was an even better view of this hit. And, absolutely blows up Logan Schutz and pots the top corner. Good on Logan Schutz at halftime to kind of joke about it, that he's got to watch out for Mike.
I've seen Mess do that to more than, I've never seen him do that and then score, but I've seen him come down and just blow guys up and give them the forearm shiver and knock guys down. But he hasn't banged one home quite like that. And you're right. Like, Logan had a good game. He had a hat trick for the Warriors in that one. But, it'd be good for him to be able to kind of make fun of himself there a little bit. And he was like, what are you going to do at half? What's the goal for the second half? He says, stay away from number 8. So he knows he was going to be on a highlight reel at least for the next week, as everybody's going to see that one. If you haven't seen it, check out the Rush or check out the NLL timeline, because it's a beauty there from the Hammer, which, by the way, he'll be ever known as the Hammer unless he tells me stop calling me that. But it's not changing to some suggestions I saw online over the last couple of days either. So let's leave it at that. We both had Saskatchewan in that game, Evan. You are a perfect 3-0. I am 2-1. San Diego hosting the Rochester Nighthawks in 17-7, a blowout. This one was even more of I don't even know what you call this, Evan. It was an absolute beatdown here by the Seals. 19-6, the final as San Diego rolls on the K-Hawks.
Yeah, San Diego hasn't had an issue when they're up of just absolutely blowing up their opponent. 68-35 were the shots on goal. It didn't matter if it was Hartley or Wendy in nets. It wasn't going to help them on this one. Casey Jackson puts up another 5 spot. This with Austin Stotts, this team's totally different. And it gets Jackson so wide open that he can do what he needs to do. I would like to know, though, what was said in that Rochester dressing room that night, because they had to fly to Colorado the next night, and they didn't have the same performance 2 nights ago.
Don't give it away, Evan. Don't give it away. But yeah, convincing win there for the Seals, and I did Chiliano get a starting job back after that game?
I can't say yes. I think he'll get another shot, but the thing is, you're playing a team that's had trouble scoring. So yeah. I won't say yes, and they only had 38 shots.
Okay.
So,
all right, just putting it out there. Buffalo at Halifax again, season series on the line here, if I'm not mistaken, Evan. Am I correct in that?
I'm not certain.
I want to say Buffalo got their win at home, and Halifax had already won early in the year.
No, Halifax had won in Buffalo early in the year.
Okay. Maybe I'm wrong there. Regardless, 11-9 Thunderbirds. Is Warren Hill impressive again? The leisure suit one Pat Gregoire was wearing, very impressive as well. Thunderbirds like playing in the Nest, man, and those fans at the Nest are really liking the Thunderbirds.
Yeah, now the interesting thing here is Cody Jamieson did ask for his suspension to go to a hearing. So that'll happen. I believe it's on Wednesday that is going to happen. So we're going to finally get a final resolution, but he had 8 points, critical that he was in the lineup. We'll see what happens there, but fantastic game. Halifax, scores the winner with 1:09 to go. They actually came back. They were down late in this game. Little bit of controversy towards the end. I know John Tavares was just absolutely livid, but it is what it is at the end of the day. And Halifax continues to roll, and these games are critical because literally with that East Division, you can go from the 1 seed to the 7 seed in one game.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. The West and the North, it's absolute logjam city. And that's an impressive win there for Halifax. They're no joke. And Warren Hill, if you're not a believer yet, get on board, because this kid's getting it done for the purple and orange of the Thunderbirds. Calgary, Alterna Cup matchup, Evan. Alterna Cup, Calgary at Toronto. I had the Rock. You had the Roughnecks. And Calgary, they get off to a good start and just kind of kept it going here. They held that 2-3 goal lead pretty much the entire game. 13-10 the final over the Rock as they lose on their home floor.
Calgary has come alive since Dane Dobie's back, and that's just as simple as it is. They're going to face a tough test with the Rush this week, but a very consistent performance throughout the lineup. Nobody had more than 5 points in the game. So, with Toronto, you got Tom Schreiber back. You got Dan Dawson back. Didn't work out. Rob Hellyer had 5 points, but the ball's not going through his stick as much. I don't know if that hurts them.
I think it does.
Or helps them.
I think it does.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it's crazy for me to want to say that I think they're a better offense with Schreiber out of their lineup.
That's hot. That's really hot.
Like, it's insane to say that, but I feel like it's true. I don't know.
I think it might be. Now, does it allow Toronto to get back to letting Challen Rogers do what he does best?
Yeah, maybe it opens. But, I don't know. Like, trade deadline coming up. I'm just putting it out there. I don't know, man. Anyways, and this is the first time that the Toronto defense had surrendered more than 10 in quite some time, too, if I recall. So a pretty impressive win there on the road for the Calgary Roughnecks. And you're right, they got a big game coming up this weekend. We'll talk about that in quarter 4. But we got to get to Ben McIntosh, and we still got 2 games in under review to get to, Evan. So let's move along. And these last 2 games might be the 2 games of the weekend, as Philly, playing their second game of the weekend, go to Georgia, and they were down big in this game early, and you thought, okay, they lost to New England, now they're going to Georgia, they're down 6-1, 7-1, this thing's done.
7-1, yeah.
And all of a sudden, they turned it around, and Zach Higgins got in an absolute zone against his former club here, and shuts him down. They claw all the way back here and take one out of Sting City. 12-11 Wings, and this was a massive win. You could see the emotion in Zach Higgins after this W.
Yeah, and once again, one of these critical games. Philly actually dropped 1 spot in the rankings
with
this
a win.
Week
with a win.
With a win. But, of course, a loss as well.
Sure.
But they don't have many games left. They need to win these games. It's unfortunate just how their schedule works out. But Georgia, they had them early. And later on, Randy Stotts was like the only one that was showing up on the offensive end. Blaze reared him with a 5 spot. Like, this guy is starting to find his groove.
Might be the best lacrosse player on the planet right now, Evan, with what he does in goal and field lacrosse and what he does as a forward in box lacrosse. He's in the conversation.
Well, if you ask Andy Towers, he'll definitely say that's but definitely the most well-rounded player in lacrosse, no question.
One more game to go on who we had, and it was another Sunday affair. 4 games on Sunday, Evan. I got home about halfway through the third quarter of that first game on Sunday, and just kind of kicked back and settled in for a big day of lacrosse. I love Sunday lacrosse. I said it.
I love Sunday lacrosse. I don't know if I love 4 games
Sunday lacrosse. Give me more. Give me more. I'll sit around all day on Sunday and watch lacrosse. Anyways, Rochester at Colorado. And again, Steve Fryer gets the start here for the Nighthawks against his old club. And you wouldn't have thought that these guys played a game last night, had an early flight. They jump out to a huge lead on Colorado. And I think it was about under 5 to go in the first quarter timeout where Johnny Gallant has a quick interview with Pat Coyle that sounded like this.
Colorado Mammoth 5-1. Head coach Pat Coyle, not the start obviously you guys wanted here. What was your message to the team during that break?
They look like a team that got embarrassed last night and want to redeem themselves. And we look like a team that thinks we just need to show up to win. So we need to play lacrosse. Thanks. Okay.
Absolute audio gold there from one Patrick Coyle. But whatever he said at halftime really turned his team around, Evan. Again, we see another huge comeback in the National Lacrosse League as Colorado comes back and wins this one 10-8. The recipe for the Mammoth, we know it, Evan. Keep a team under 10. Good chance they're going to win. 10-8 the final.
But the recipe was totally different this time because Dylan Ward was getting absolutely pummeled in this game. What did he allow?
I don't know, it was like 6-1 or something.
It was 5-1, and he's out of the game. You take Tyler Carlson, and at first it was kind of like, okay, Carlson's coming in, Ward will come back in a minute. Didn't happen. And I'll say it. I said it before. I'll say it again. The best game Tyler Carlson has ever played in the NLL. He absolutely robbed Rochester. Now, Colorado, 44 shots on goal, is probably not going to get it done, but luckily they get 9 of the last 10 goals. And Rochester just couldn't finish it. Now, you got to be happy because Rochester looked god-awful on Saturday. Coming into this game, if they would have folded, there was no Sean Evans, not a surprise. But, they put out a performance, they just couldn't finish it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Tyler have some pretty good performances in Minnesota when he was kind of flip-flopping with Evan Kirk as a starter. I've seen him have a couple of good performances for the Rush as well. But this was his signature moment, and how about the post-game interview as well with Cadillac? Big Ric Flair woo. I can't do it. I don't have a high-pitched voice, Evan, but pretty good there for Carlson. And for me, like, Steve Fryer got the start, and yeah, he takes a loss here. He allows 10 to the Mammoth. Tough way to lose a game, but if, again, I just go back to this Rochester situation where they're carrying 3 goalies on their active. Trade deadline is coming. If I'm Mike Hazen and Dan Carey, and I'm not, but this is my opinion, Evan, you hitch your wagon to Steve Fryer, who's the goaltender he's the oldest, he's got the most NLL experience, and I think he gives you the best chance to win on a nightly basis. Hitch your wagon to deep for the rest of the season. Trade one of these guys, and if I have to make a decision, it's Wendy, because I think Hartley's got a little more upside there. Not that I don't think Wendy's a good goaltender. Get an asset, get a little value, send the message to your team that these are your guys, like all of it, and I think you might clear some things up with those Nighthawks. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think Wendy would be the correct move for the simple reason that because another team is going to see his upside potential, you're going to get that value.
Yeah. And I mean, Hartley was a coveted expansion draft pick where you took him pretty early in that expansion draft because he was a guy that you wanted. For me, I ride deep and I groom Hartley at least for the rest of the season here. Like, have some continuity, have some consistency, and see what happens. Oh, by the way, totally forgot to mention winner this week on Stampede Tex, who you got. I'm going to butcher this guy's name. There's no question about it. Going to do my best here, though, Evan. Congrats to Renee Ruetlinger. That's my best effort right there. 8-0. For Double R, that is impressive stuff, and came down to the tiebreaker, third tiebreaker as well. So congrats to Renee. Your chance comes up starting this weekend to win Week 16, Evan. Since you've never won Who You Got Week, your chance comes up on Week 16. I've already won Week 6, so I don't have to worry as much as you, who's never won. All right, it's time to get into Under Review. No, it's time to go Under Review.
It's time for Under Review, presented by G. Wilson Construction. Each week, Jake and Evan answer a listener's question or break down an unusual call that happened in a game. The challenge flag has been thrown, so now it's time to take the matter under review.
Under Review, brought to you by G. Wilson Construction, an award-winning firm with a single focus, building fine custom homes, getting closer to completing that castle up there in Whistler. I believe they want to be done early fall with that thing, Evan. I'm going to go back up there and check out the finished product once it's done. Can't wait to do that. And don't forget, go to gwilsonconstruction.com if you're an experienced journeyman or you're a new young for laborer that wants to get into the construction business, maybe start a career, G. Wilson Construction, find the Work With Us tab on the top right and send in your resume. Who knows? Could start your career with G. Wilson Construction. Evan, under review, we're going to talk about something that happened twice in the Saskatchewan game, and I think it happened actually around the league a couple of more times, and it confused me a little bit on the call, which doesn't happen very often, but this one kind of did. So I actually had Jimmy Quinlan text me in the break and said and explained to me what had actually happened, which I was very thankful for. But this is a situation where there is a goal or a non-goal, a challenge situation as the game is either going to a TV timeout or an end of quarter break, and what the team has to do to either challenge this or not challenge it or avoid a delay of game penalty in this situation. Break it down.
So let's go with the situation at the end of the first quarter. What happened was Vancouver had called its timeout with about 25 seconds to go in the quarter because they're about to lose possession. They wanted to get that final possession in there.
So they had used their timeout. They did not have a timeout for the first half. It was gone.
Correct. So it's gone. So Vancouver takes a shot that creeps through Evan Kirk, and it's close to the goal line. I can't remember who it was on defense that managed to get a stick on it, and it was very close to the line. Play goes on, and, of course, Vancouver's waiting to look at a replay to see what's going to happen. With the last 11 seconds, quarter expires, you guys go to TV break, and all of a sudden the challenge flag gets thrown while the lights are off and everything like that, waiting for the quarter-end performance. This is perfectly legal because you have 30 seconds to challenge the play. So even though he went into the TV timeout, he still had about 18 seconds to throw the flag, and he did. Now, the ball did stay on the line. It didn't quite cross. And because he had lost his timeout and lost his challenge, delay a game penalty. And that was the unusual circumstance. We saw this in Vegas as well, where it was on the Brody Merrill goal, where Colorado had they burned their timeout to get to that last possession. They challenged it. Now they challenged it with 0 on the clock, and it went to review. Colorado got a delay a game penalty with 1/10 of a second left in the quarter.
That's almost an even more interesting situation, because if you throw a challenge flag in halftime, technically in halftime, 0's on the clock. So hopefully that makes a little more sense. You can challenge during a TV timeout or an end of a quarter break while the game is in intermission or
as long as
commercial.
The 30 seconds is not expired.
There you go. So hopefully that was a quick little under review, but I think it was a worthy under review. Thanks to G. Wilson Construction for sponsoring that segment. Don't forget, if you have any suggestions or is something confusing or annoying or you just don't know, tweet at us at LaxClass, at PXP for Sports, at ShemLax, and we'll take your suggestion under review for under review. Let's get to break on episode 70, and on the other side, we'll welcome a 3-time NLL champion, Ben McIntosh from the Saskatchewan Rush on the other side. This is Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network.
Associated Labels and Packaging, a fun family company that offers premium quality labels and packaging with unparalleled service. With 40 years of experience, an extensive product catalog, and an ever-growing fleet of equipment, Associated Labels and Packaging is the perfect fit to take your labels and packaging to the next level.
Hey, this is Bradley Cree of the Toronto Rock. You're listening to Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network. Growing the game one podcast at a time.
Welcome back to Lax Class. Episode 70 is into the second quarter here. Jake Elliott, Evan Schemenauer with you, and now joined by number 90 from the Saskatchewan Rush. He was named first star in that game. 3 goals, 3 assists for Ben McIntosh. Benny, thanks for joining us here on the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
My pleasure, our pleasure, man. I know you are now residing in the city of brotherly love. This has been going on for a while now. Explain to the listeners, the fans alike here, Ben, why the move from God's country in Coquitlam, where we are both born and raised, to back east in Philadelphia, where you attended Drexel University.
Yeah. Like most things, it's because of a girl. So I met someone I went to school with. She's a lacrosse player. Her name's Kelly. So Kelly and I had an opportunity where I got a U.S. visa playing in the PLL, and we took advantage of it. So now I'm living in Philly.
And did I not see maybe one Benjamin McIntosh drop down to a knee and propose to Kelly?
Yes, I did dust the knee off. That's true too. We're now engaged.
Well,
congratulations. Been a fun couple months.
Yeah, congratulations on that, man. And you've been back there for a while and been back there a lot. Let's get this out of the way. You got a favorite cheesesteak place that you go to?
Yeah, you know what? There's a place in Philadelphia. It's the area is called Fishtown, and it's called Joe's.
I've heard this. I think Rambo said that to us before. He says it's not Pat's, it's not Gino's, it's Joe's. That's where you got to go.
Yeah, Joe's is great. My buddy lives pretty close to it, actually, so it's walking distance, which is always nice.
So a big win at home this past weekend. A little bit of a rough record at home and a great record on the road, which is the exact opposite of what you're used to. What was it at home this year that maybe was throwing the team off a bit?
Yeah, you know what? I don't know if it's necessarily anything about being at home, but maybe just those games at home, you can get pretty comfortable. We're a loose group to begin with. We have a lot of fun. But it seems like we maybe a few times of those home games just got a little complacent where, there's 15-minute stretches or 20-minute stretches in a game where we sort of let up and it came back to bite us a couple times. And especially that Toronto game, it was just, we had that one and then we completely let it slip away. So I'm not sure if it's just being too comfortable at home or whatever it was, but I'm hoping after this last win against Vancouver, we stopped that.
Yeah, and you had a nice kind of breakout performance, Benny, with 3-3, and I mentioned off the top of the broadcast, like 29 points in 9 games, nothing to sneeze at, but I would say a little lower than what we've come to expect from Ben McIntosh. I don't know how you've felt about your season to this point, but that one had to feel pretty good, and I kind of correlate, I don't know about you, but Austin Murphy getting into that game, the offense really kind of seemed to come alive. You guys going righty strong. Did that have something to play into it?
Yeah, you know what? I think we do. We do a bit of a better job when we go strong, right? I think we're pretty structured on that right side, and Murph's figured it out pretty quickly here. So having 4 rights is just what we're used to, right? I mean, when we had Niter on the team, we were 4 rights for all 5 years prior to this year that I was there. So it's a little more comfortable for us, and it's tough, right? Because Connor's such a talented and such a good player.
Yeah.
It's tough for a guy like that to be out of the lineup, but so we'll see what happens going forward. But I think we're definitely a little bit more comfortable with 4 rights.
You got the best quick stick in the league. No, I'm serious about that. You got the best quick stick in the league. For the youngsters out there, is there a trick to developing this skill?
I don't know that there's necessarily a trick. There's a few things that come into play. Like I don't play with a huge bag in my stick or anything like that.
Well, it's not a tennis racket either, though, Benny. It's
no, by no means. I mean, you need a pocket, you need some hold in your stick. So it's not a tennis racket, but just being able to have that, and honestly, just practicing. Like even last practice, it's something I've been doing for 20 years, and sometimes I even had to go out. Like I had Mark, who hates staying after practices. He likes to get right off the floor. And I had to pull him aside and be like, Mark, let's do, 15 of these quick sticks here so I'm not missing any open nets anymore. I've done it a few times this year where, he's given me just a perfect pass, and I've sent it right past the net and the goalie and right to the corner.
Yeah, what's that like, Ben? Because half the time he's not even looking at you when he rips a ball directly across the zone into your stick. Is it just one of those things where you have to be ready at all times for that pass to come?
Yeah, you know what? I've played with him long enough now that I have a pretty good sense when he's throwing it, and just there's little things he does, like he'll dip his shoulders. He won't.
Don't give all the secrets away here. Don't.
It's okay. It's all right. I'm confident it's just between him and I. Anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, no, he's so good at it. He's so deceiving with it, and there's no question. There's times when it comes at me and I'm not ready for it. So it's not like I always know, but there's little things here and there. And I think that he's just such a good passer that he finds lanes and just puts it right in a good spot.
Now, I don't want to give away all the secrets, but now lately you're getting the ball at X and you're stuffing it. A little bit of a
the dunk machine, Ben McIntosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why that is. It seems to be, to be honest with you, like those behind the net goals, they're not, the crease is so close to the net. It's not like you got to be really close to or like really athletic to like jump super far. It's not like a dunk like in basketball or anything. Like you literally just have to fall
like
forward
if Churchy can do it, anybody can, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm sure we will be mixing it up, but yeah, the past few have been me behind the net for those, and it's nice. I mean, literally, it's all the other guys do all the work. You just literally sit there and basically lay it in.
Speaking with Ben McIntosh of the Saskatchewan Rush, also a member of the Waterdogs. We're going to talk about that a little bit coming up, but I want to talk about this Friday coming up, Ben, a Friday nighter in Calgary inside the Saddle Dome, first meeting of the year against the defending champs. How forward are you looking to this one, and what kind of game are you expecting?
Yeah, I mean they're a good team. They're a really good team, and their record isn't they're right around 500, I think, and I don't think that's indicative of where they are as a team. They've had some injuries, and they had Dobie out for 6 games there, and so they're the defending champs, right? Right now they're the best team, and they're the head honcho. So we got to play hard, and if we don't, then they're going to come back and smack us around pretty good. So we need a full 60-minute game, and kind of the issue we struggle with this year is we've struggled a bit with coming off a win and kind of feeling ourselves a little bit. So we got to make sure we're not doing that. We got to make sure we're here, we're ready to play. We know it's going to be a battle. And
that 60-minute effort is really the key for you guys, I think, right? Like, I mean, you've shown spurts, like you said, but then there's been 15, 20-minute gaps where you guys went to sleep a little bit. But I think last Saturday night really proved when you put a full 60 together, the results speak for themselves.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And like we struggled to do that for whatever reason this year. And I don't think it's going to continue to happen. I think we've kind of learned our lesson. At least I hope so. But yeah, I mean, any team, there's going to be momentum changes in every game, right? Like there's going to be 3 or 4 goal swing for the other team. It's just inevitable. But we got to be able to respond, and we can't let that slide into, a 15, 20-minute slump where we don't score a goal.
Won 3 titles in the last 5 years. What do you got to do to keep that fire in your belly to get the next one?
If you've ever won anything, I don't think there's much motivation that you need. The celebrations and just that feeling of winning, there's nothing like it. So I think if you, a lot of people do say that and bring it up, but if you've ever won anything really big and you know what that feeling's like, you want to chase that your entire life, and you want to chase that every year.
Yeah. Sure. It's almost like when you want to win more once you win one, because you know what it feels like.
Yeah, no question. There's just no feeling like it. So definitely I agree with that.
Well, we got to see another Statler celebration, right?
You got what?
Shots
celebration. Statler for celebration like the last one.
Statler has fun. That's no question about that.
Captain Obvious, Ben McIntosh on the phone here with us from Philly. And you also a member of the PLL Chaos last year, if I'm not mistaken, or was it Chrome? Excuse me.
Archers.
I was close. No, I wasn't.
No, that's okay.
But now you are
other teams you could have picked from there.
Now you are a member of the Waterdogs. This is gonna be something here. This is they've kind of worked it around being a revengeful kind of team. What do you think? What are you making of all this?
You know what? I'm excited. I mean, I get to play with the Archers. They were unbelievable guys, and I actually had a lot of fun with that team. It was great getting to know them. And at the end of the day, I have nothing but respect for all the players, all the coaches, and everyone involved there. They really are an awesome group. But it's going to be fun playing with Wesley and Brody, and playing with some guys I'm a little bit more familiar with. There's no question about that. So it'll be fun. I mean, that league's, it's run a little different. Everyone meets and everyone plays out of the same venue. Everyone stays in the same hotel. So there's a lot of, buddy on every team. And
but then it gets pretty nasty, though. But then it gets pretty nasty when it's on the field.
Yeah, I mean, just like the NLL, everyone's kind of buddy, but everyone's a huge competitor out there. So there's no question it does get nasty and really competitive too. Yeah, but again, playing with Wes and Brody, I think that'll be a good change.
Well, that made me a Waterdogs fan instantly. Once I saw that you, Wes, and Brody were all going to be on the same team, I instantly became a Waterdogs fan, man. All right, man. Well, I appreciate the time here on Lax Class as always. Good luck there in Calgary this weekend, and we'll see you in a couple weeks back in Sask Vegas for a big one against the Swarm.
Yeah, that sounds great. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Ben McIntosh. Say hi to the family as well.
Will do. Take care, guys.
All right, there was Ben McIntosh, number 90. He's all in on 90 now, and big game on Saturday night, and when Ben is going, the Rush seem to go.
Yeah, it's a situation where, of course, Mark Matthews is the guy that everybody's focusing in on. It's a big mistake if you focus too hard because Ben McIntosh is wide open on the far side, and he'll nail you in 2 seconds.
Yeah, interesting to see what they do Friday night, whether they stick with Murphy or they go back to Robinson here. I got to believe that Murphy's going to stay in the lineup until he gives him a reason not to stay in the lineup, and I thought he deserved to be in there. So we'll see how it goes. We got to get to another break here, Evan, on episode 70, and then we are going to talk to the very first referee to ever appear on Lax Class, Todd Labranche, on the other side. Keep it right here on the Lacrosse All-Stars Podcast Network.
This is Patrick Merrill, GM and head coach of the San Diego Seals. You're listening to Lax Class, your go-to source for all things NLL and box lacrosse. Going the game one podcast at a time.
Welcome back to Lax Class on the Lacrosse All-Stars Podcast Network, episode 70. Into the third quarter here. Jake Elliott, Evan Schemenauer with you, and now joined by the very first NLL referee on the podcast. Not only is he an NLL referee, but he is a crew chief for the National Lacrosse League. It's Todd Labranche. Todd, thanks so much for doing this. We are so excited to have you on. What are you up to? What's going on?
Thanks very much for having me on. It's great being with you guys. Just relaxing at home on a quiet evening.
And that is in Red Deer, if I'm not mistaken, as you reside now in Alberta, correct?
That is correct. Red Deer, Alberta.
And is there a reason that you settled down? I mean, you're a guy that travels all over North America now. Why Red Deer?
100% family decision. My daughter moved here a few years ago, and she had a little guy, and we were quite close to him. So we were on a plane every month coming to see him. So we decided that probably be in our best interest to make the move to Alberta.
When you first decided to come be a referee, why did you want to become a referee?
Well, I was actually playing Pee Wee lacrosse, and my coach at the time was the referee in chief for the local association, and he convinced a few of us to try refereeing, and gave it a go. And lo and behold, I actually crazy enough, I liked it and stuck with it, and just started to hone my craft as a young guy, and eventually made it to the NLL.
Wow! So, wow! So you started officiating when you were just a peewee age, which is what, like 12 or 13 or something like that?
I was 12 at the time. Yeah.
Unbelievable! And how many years have you committed to the National Lacrosse League now?
So this is officially 20 years, my 20th season with the NLL.
Unreal, Todd. Unreal. And before that, you were refereeing BC Junior Lacrosse, WLA Lacrosse. So you officiated many a game that I participated in, and I got to ask you this because it's a story that I tell all the time about. It was my second year in the league. It was my first year with New Westminster, and I believe we were in Burnaby Lake. It was an intermission. Is this coming back to you? I think I've even told you this story before. Where
Jake, Jake, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay,
I think
good.
You have me mistaken with somebody else.
No. This is even better. That you don't.
I'm totally kidding with you. I clearly remember this because I tell the story as well.
Okay, so for people that don't know, I'm glad you remember this too, because I mean, like, I'm second year in the league. I'm not, and I'm whatever. I'm just a role player sort of thing, and I don't know what it was. We were down 6-2, 7-2, and they had gotten 3 or 4 power plays, and I kind of sauntered out through the tunnel, and you were waiting there for the period to start, and I just, out of the corner of my mouth said, not your greatest period, maybe try and even it up, and you had one of the all-time responses, and it was, "Who the F are you?" And hips, hands to the hips, 10-minute misconduct, into the penalty box I go. The coach wasn't even back out on the bench yet, and Salty comes out, and I'm standing in the penalty box, and he's looking over at me. The period hasn't started. He says, "What the hell did you?" So that was one of my favorite Todd Labranche moments right there.
Well, it was interesting because, first of all, we have the same recollection of the event, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And then the best part of the whole interaction was then Eric Callison, who was the captain of the time, comes over and he looks at me and he said, "Todd, what happened? What's going on with Jake?" And I said, "He told me that I wasn't very good last period and I'd have to be better." So I told him he would have 10 minutes in the box to evaluate me.
I had not heard that part of the story. Captain Eddie, Hall of Famer, what a legend.
And then Eddie looked at me and said, "Good call."
Yeah.
You're not shorthanded, so what's the problem?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I'm in the penalty box for 10 minutes, so I'm not a liability out on the floor either.
So let's go through the preseason routine for the officials. What kind of training you got to do, physical training, classroom training prior to the season starting?
So in the last couple of years, it's kind of changed dramatically for our preseason training rituals. Obviously, the physical aspect of it is the same. We actually are required to do a couple of fitness tests while we're in camp. And so it's a 12-minute run and then a shuttle run for speed. And we have minimum requirements that we have to achieve. But the actual training camp itself has really been augmented. So we go into Syracuse every year now, and we referee that big tournament, the last night, I believe it is.
Right.
And so we get an opportunity to really work just a tremendous amount of games. Granted, they're short games, but most guys are working anywhere from 8 to 12 games in a 3 or 4 day period. So it's a great opportunity to work with other guys. It's a great opportunity to learn the floor coverage for younger guys and for us old guys to mentor the young guys coming up. So it's been a real benefit and a real bonus to our association to have that kind of training. Previously, it was kind of just, as far as physical aspect of it goes, just get ready on your own, and then we would be sent study information and then be on several conference calls throughout the beginning of the season and just reviewing the focus calls for the upcoming year, as well as, any new rules or rule applications that the competition committee saw fit to implement. So now it's 4 or 5 days in Syracuse and get together with all the guys. And, there were some years where new guys would come into the league and the first time you'd actually get to meet them face to face was your first game in the locker room with them. So this has really helped and created a better atmosphere for the officials group overall.
Well, and that's interesting as we speak with NLL crew chief Todd Labranche here, and you mentioned mentoring, and last night, by the way, Lacrosse All-Stars, where this podcast airs on, so that's a nice little tie-in for that tournament and this podcast. But you mentioned mentoring and guys getting their first taste of action, and that actually happened just a couple of weeks ago in Saskatoon, where young Mr. Roseberry had to step onto the turf due to some travel issues. So when it comes to mentoring in a situation like that, Todd, what do you as the crew chief say to him, and how do you think Calvin did in that situation?
You know what? I think Calvin did a really great job. He stepped into a situation. He found out, probably around 12 o'clock in the afternoon that he was going to be onto the floor because Ian Garrison got stuck with travel issues through Vancouver. It was a fairly blustery weekend across Western Canada, so he didn't make it. And Calvin stepped up and he stepped right in. And I just told him, I just said, first of all, trust yourself. Trust the fact that you've been hired by the NLL and that you're here for a reason. And I told him, I said, probably the first 4 or 5 minutes are going to be your biggest challenge. And then you're going to start realizing that it's just a lacrosse game. But yeah, you know what? You're coming out into an atmosphere, especially in Saskatchewan, where you've got 14, 15,000 people who are amped up and loud, and the music playing, but after the initial, get over the 4 or 5 minutes, then it's just a lacrosse game, and trust your abilities and the reason that you were hired by the NLL. So I think he did that. I asked him after the game, I said, looked like you were a little bit nervous in the first quarter, but you settled in after that. And he just looked at me and he said, I almost puked 3 times in the first quarter.
Yeah, I saw him pregame, and I was like, oh, you're getting your shot tonight, eh, Rook? And he kind of tried to play it off a little bit cool. But you could see there wasn't a whole lot of color in his face, and it was a big moment for him. And I thought he got through it very well as well.
Yeah, I agree. I thought he did a great job and stepped up into a really tough situation when you find out 7 hours before. At least if you have the game for a few weeks, you can focus and get ready for it.
Now, of course, I've refereed other sports at an elite level, and there's a lot of things the fans don't see with the post-game reviews and the conference calls as to, what it is you're going to focus on going forward. Take us through your week from the time the game is over to the time the next game starts.
Sure. Once a game ends, then, we kind of sit down and talk about situations. And we're fortunate, based on the flow of the game in the NLL, that we have the opportunity every 5 minutes where there's a media break, to try and talk and review and things that are happening within the game. But after the game, we kind of debrief and just have a quick discussion over any anomalies that might have occurred, and see where we could have done things differently if we feel that necessary. That's typically at the end of every game that we do that. And then Sunday would be kind of just a travel day, getting home, getting back into your hometown. And then for me, I like to just take some time and hang out with the family and enjoy some quiet time on the Sunday. And then it starts all over again. Then you get prepared for the next week, and Monday's a little bit of a lighter day. And I'm talking about myself. I'm not sure that everybody follows the same routine, but I like to go to the gym on the Monday and just have a nice, relaxing, I'll jump on the bike, the stationary bike, and just get the legs moving a little bit and spend a lot of time on the mat stretching out, trying to keep the body limber. And at my age, it's something that's really required. And then start to ramp it up on Tuesday. Back at the gym on Tuesday for generally a 10K on the elliptical.
Whew.
And then the homework starts with the videos. So we have a really great platform that we use for our video sessions, and Brian Lemon, our chief, will put a reel onto our site, and we can go and access that and see what it is that any strange happenings throughout the course of the games that occurred the past week. And then same thing on Wednesday, a little bit lighter again in the gym, back on the stationary bike just to keep the legs limber, and then more film sessions. And then every Wednesday night we get together as a group, and we have a conference call that's led by Brian, and he takes us through any situations that we need to learn from the week before, and review all of the clips anywhere from about 9 9 or 10 clips through to this past week when we had 26 to review.
So sorry, Todd. I just want to stop you there. And during this during this conference call with Brian Lemon, who's the chief of officials, this is all NLL officials on this call. So when you're talking about situations that need to be reviewed or understood, or maybe that weren't called quite correctly, this is for everybody to hear and everybody to understand. Well, it may have just been one person that was in the wrong or is getting evaluated, but everybody's on this call so they can understand it as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Everybody from crew chiefs to assistant referees and even the shot clock officials attended, because sometimes there's scenarios where we need the help from the shot clock official, and the insight and the information that they can provide in a game situation is valuable. So yeah, everybody's on it, and we all hear the same message from Brian at the same time. So it's a great tool for us to learn and develop as a group.
And then I would imagine you're either traveling on the Thursday or traveling on the Friday to get to your location before you referee that game. Is that kind of how the rest of the week goes?
It is, yeah. Generally, we don't travel on Thursdays because most of the games are Friday, Saturday. So we get into the city the morning of the game.
Okay.
Typically, depending on travel, and then we get ready and meet at the arena 2 hours before the game, so we can talk as a crew and review the call notes and just make sure everybody's on the same page, and away we go. Blow the whistle.
Yeah, let's play some lacrosse. You heard it.
There you go.
As we speak with Todd Labranche here, and you mentioned early on about new rules and focus calls and things like that, and that the rule book is kind of always ever evolving, which must be difficult to kind of stay on top of that. I know it's a challenge for me as a broadcaster to stay really on top of the rule book. And there's some obscure things in there. Like, do you have a couple of examples of really kind of crazy, weird rules that you've had to call in a game and had to dig deep into your brain to remember?
Well, and sometimes you not only dig deep to remember, but sometimes they slip your mind. Like if there's too many men in overtime, whether it's a penalty shot or a timed penalty, and you get it wrong and you get held accountable. But you know what? For us, one of the biggest challenges for us in the rule book are the crease rules. So 67, 68, 69 are the rules that really, really need a significant focus, and making sure that you're on top of those, because there's so many nuances, so many variables. So those are the tough three. And we get reminded of that almost weekly to make sure that we're on top of 67, 68, and 69, because it's so dynamic, and protecting the goalies is a big focus for us.
Now, of course, you're a guy that is not afraid of the microphone. We got the infamous Zach Greer penalty. 2 minutes to make him think what he did.
Before you ask him about that, Evan, let's get this out of there, because this is something that this thing went viral. This is something you are well known for. Did this just come organically, or was this kind of playing in the back of your head that you were going to dish this out in Colorado? How did this manifest itself?
I thought about, saying something at some point in time, and I didn't say anything to Brian at all about it. I'll try and give you the short version of the story. But before the game, I run into, I'm out on the floor, walking the floor, making sure everything is fine for the game. And Nick Sakevich and a group of investors from New York are out on the floor. And lo and behold, I shake their hands, and we had a quick chat. And then I get into the game, and I'm like, okay, here's an opportunity to throw something out there. And so I give it a go. Completely forgot that Nick was in the stands and had no idea. And after the game, I'm walking around the corner, and Nick and the group of investors are coming straight for me, and I'm like, oh my God, I forgot, and I said what I said. Could this be my last game? And so we stop and we talk, and Nick says, what was with that call? And I said, well, I just thought I'd have some fun with it. And he's like, I love it, and high fives.
Oh,
so
man. And New
I
York,
knew I was okay.
And New York got a team out of it, so that might have been the final.
Yeah, I don't know that I'll take credit for that.
Okay.
No, one of the features that's happened the last couple of years is NLL Wired, which I think the fans appreciate simply because there's going to be calls that they don't understand or reviews that they don't understand as to why the rule is applied the way it is. And I know I've spent I don't know how many hours on this podcast already trying to explain certain rules to fans that they can understand it. What's your thoughts with NLL Wired?
I think it's fantastic. I just, I think it's a great insight into the game. For a couple of years now, we've been trying to educate when we call a certain penalty, why, for example, if you've used your timeout and you lose a challenge, then it's a delay game penalty. So we've been trying to do a little bit of that over the mic in-house. But now you've got insight into discussions with the rest of the crew as well as coaches and players. So it's great insight. I think it's just a wonderful feature.
I honestly think it's one of the best things, not only in lacrosse, but in pro sports. Like just getting inside the mind and the conversations between captains and officials and coaches and officials. And I think it is absolutely brilliant that the league has done this, and I know it's still a bit of a work in progress as well, but it's getting better and better every year as well. And when you get guys like you and Garrison who aren't have great personalities and are willing to kind of engage with the players and stuff, I think it's absolutely fantastic. Because we got a couple more minutes here with NLL crew chief Todd Labranche. Craziest game you've ever officiated?
I think if you would have asked me this question a couple of weeks ago, I would have had a bit of a challenge answering it. But then I worked the Halifax, Saskatchewan game where at one point it was 12-3 for Saskatchewan. Then it ends up in overtime with 3 overtime goals and 2 of them overturned. So I don't think I've had anything with quite that much intensity in the fourth quarter, and then the overtime. So I'd have to go with that one.
I think that's probably a pretty solid answer. I know my ticker was pounding in the chest pretty good watching that thing.
Yeah, it was exciting. I'll tell you. Like when it gets to that point, and you're in the third quarter, and you think, okay, we just got to keep a lid on it and make sure it doesn't get out of hand. And then all of a sudden it's 12-6 and it's 12-9. And then, all of a sudden now you're under a minute and Halifax has pulled their goalie and then tie it up to go into overtime. So it was a different shift in mindset throughout the course of the fourth quarter. And you had to giddy up and get back really focused rather than just making sure that you're keeping a lid on things.
Now, how we managed to mend fences a long time ago was an unfortunate incident with my daughter contracting diabetes, and I can't thank you enough for reaching out and providing advice for me. And, of course, as I look at my phone, her diabetic meter's going off again. What challenges do you face on the floor as a diabetic?
Well, it's not so much on the floor. I think it's more so, the travel that we do and finding proper meal intervals. And, sometimes the flights get delayed and you've got you think you have a 90-minute layover where you'll be able to grab a quick bite to eat in the airport, but then it becomes 20 minutes and you got to run to your gate. So it's the meal intervals that sort of become a challenge to make sure that you're staying as level as possible. But with that being said, I also find the officiating being a blessing, being a diabetic, because I think, at my age, it does force me to be in the gym and on the bike and the elliptical a lot more than I would be if I wasn't participating in the game. So kind of a double-edged sword, and, being a fellow diabetic with your daughter, I've got my fingers crossed and hoping that she stays level and within range. So it's, like I said, double-edged sword. You got to take the good with the bad, and I travel with protein bars in my bag just to make sure that I can stay level and stay on course to try and stay as healthy as I can.
Yeah, and things have come a long way in that world, have they not, Todd, about how to treat and how to manage and maintain your levels as a diabetic?
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's leaps and bounds. Before, you were constantly pricking your finger to get a blood test, and now you've got a sticker on your shoulder that you can just test through, or something a little more sophisticated like
Corinna has.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's Bluetooth to your phone now.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I haven't taken that step yet, but much better than it was in the past.
You're old school,
yeah,
Todd.
Well, not quite old school, but middle school.
Hey, last one here for you, and we appreciate your time on Lax Class. And me being a numbers guy, I always like to ask players this. And you've been wearing number 12 for a long, long time. How come?
Sorry to disappoint you, Jake. It's not a great story.
That's okay.
When I showed up on my very first NLL training camp at Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, they handed me a package and I opened it up and the sweater was number 12 and that's what they gave me.
Well, there you go, man. Every number has a story, and that's not the worst one we've heard. So don't feel bad on it. Hey, appreciate your time. All the best to your lovely wife, who I know is a big fan and listener. So I want to make sure I get a quick shout out into her, and I'm sure we're going to cross paths here before season's end somewhere down the road here.
I'm sure that's a very likely possibility. She likes to tag along on as many trips as she can, but we do have to limit them because she's a teacher and she can't get away all the time. But she loves to come to games.
Well, there you go. Appreciate you, Todd. Keep up the good work with you and your crew, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks very much, guys, and great being on with you.
All right. So that was Todd Labranche, Evan, our very first NLL official on the program, and I thought that was a great conversation.
And it's the most thankless job in the world. I mean, as much as I was hard on Todd, I should have thought back at all my years of refereeing and realized how hard people were on me. Because the thing is, you nail a call, nobody cares. You screw one up, everybody's on top of you.
Yeah,
and
you ref a perfect game.
Even if you get, there's fans that don't understand the rules and are going to go after you. So it's a no-win situation. And most of the time, it's unfortunately a thankless job. But for those that have done it at a certain level, there's also the rewards that come with it.
Yeah, you do your job correctly. Nobody's batting an eyelash. The second you make a incorrect call, everybody's all over you, and it's not right. I mean, honestly, I think back to how abusive I was as a player and as a coach to some referees, and I still now as a broadcaster, I'll say it. Like if there's a missed call or I think there's a weak call, I'm going to say it, but I'll say it in a way that's not like you suck, ref, sort of thing. But it's one of the hardest jobs in lacrosse to me. Like officiating lacrosse, I don't know if there's a harder job officiating because of the speed of the game and how many different things go into.
Well,
refereeing.
What's a cross check? What's an illegal cross check?
Yeah.
What isn't? What's a slash? What isn't? What's a hold? What isn't? Right?
Yeah, and Todd's the best of the best. Yes, he's the number one. He's the number one. He gets the number one assignment every time.
And how many refs can say they've got YouTube clips that have gone viral? Not many.
Yes, indeed. All right, Evan. One more break here on episode 70, and we're back with quarter 4 quick sticks. And who you got coming up? Stick around. This is Lax Class on Lacrosse All-Stars Podcast Network.
A Vancouver Warriors game at Rogers Arena sounds like this.
Jones shoots and he scores! Diving effort from Mitch Jones.
Nothing's monotone.
Lee and Beers go crashing into the crease.
Nothing's boring.
Now we're going to have a fight. It's the captain squaring off.
And at Vancouver Warriors games,
loads up.
Nothing's offside.
Tries a shot and he scores!
Experience it for yourself. Vancouver Warriors tickets are available now. Tickets starting from $19.95. Visit VancouverWarriors.com/tickets today.
Hey, this is Joel McCready from the Vancouver Warriors. You're listening to Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network. Growing the game one podcast at a time. And now it's time for Who You Got.
Welcome back to Lacrosse Classified. Quarter number 4. No more breaks here on Lax Class, but I do have to tell you about the upcoming game. You just heard from them right there. The Vancouver Warriors got a big one this Friday night. Danny and myself are going to take the girls, the youngsters, to the game here for St. Patrick's Day, Evan. Friday, March 13th, 7:30 face-off. And also a Biz20 promo code. Swipe up for your discount, promo code BIZ20. By the way, did you see the little exchange between one Grandma Rush and one Biz Nasty 2.0? That was something.
I mean, Joyce is an absolute gem, love her to death. And I mean, it doesn't surprise me she'd say that, because if you actually talk to her in person, you get her riled up. That's exactly how she talks.
Yeah.
But, she's passionate, and I don't know how Biz can reply to that. Like, how do you...
Yeah, well, he did well.
80-year-old lady?
He did very well. He took a little meme from Happy Gilmore from the old folks home there with Ben Stiller. It was perfect, and... listen, Grandma Rush has outlasted me and down in the hotel bar a couple of weeks. Where it's 2 a.m. and I'm I'm done, and she's still going strong. So, anyways, that was...
I've seen her there 4 a.m.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. So, Warriors are taking on the San Diego Seals this weekend. Join in the hunt for the Golden Coin in an in-game scavenger hunt. Performances from a drumline and Celtic band, green cotton candy, Evan, and a post-game St. Patrick's Day party up at the sports bar, which is just the perfect thing. When you go to the Warriors game, and then you don't even have to leave the arena. You just head right up the stairs into the sports bar. All the boys show up afterwards, and you don't have to go anywhere. It's perfect.
Well, and let's see if that Gick effect that's absolutely railing the Vancouver Canucks into the playoffs rubs off on the Warriors.
Yeah, they need it. I'm expecting the biggest crowd of the year, of course, as well. VancouverWarriors.com to get your tickets, or you can call 604-899-4625. Hit option 1. I'm going to do that right after I hang up on you, Evan, and get myself some tickets to Friday's Vancouver Warriors game against San Diego Seals. Nothing's offside.
What I need to do one of these days is get me one of those white jerseys. They had them on again there in Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
That is one of my favorite jerseys. I mean, we made fun of the logo before, but that white on white.
Well, you did. I did.
Love it.
Yeah, no, those whites are definitely slick for sure. And even Flats, Ryan Flaherty commented that on top of off the broadcast. And they're very stylish. Very nice. Okay. Time now, Evan, for Week 16's Who You Got? Evan, who you got?
Jake, who you got?
Who you got?
Who you got?
Who you got?
Who you got? Who ya got?
Who you got? Who you got? Presented by Stampede Tack and Western Wear. Evan, you don't need to be riding a horse to wear an oilskin jacket by the Outback Trading Company. These classic jackets are designed with Canadian weather in mind and perfect for working outside, watching your kids play outdoor sports, or just going out for a walk with the dog. Stampede Tack carries a wide range of oilskin products designed to protect you from the elements. Check them out at stampede.ca. where shopping online is still shopping local. Couple new reads there for Stampede, and I love it because he's always updating me with the latest of what's going on at Stampede Tack and Western Wear. So, oilskin, they got boots, they got hats, jeans, all of it. Check them out at stampede.ca. Proud sponsors of Lacrosse Classified. Evan, I mentioned it in quarter number 1. You had a fantastic 7-1 week. I had an average 5-3 week. Updated standings in overall who you got. Let me find my piece of paper once again. There it is. You are now 50-29. I am a respectable 48-31. As we move into Week 16 action, I get to host once again, being down by 2.
Well, so no excuses that you don't know what my pick's going to be anymore.
No.
So no more excuses.
And I do have one excuse. That Calgary-Toronto game, I used the coin, if you recall, Evan. So the coin now 2-1 on the year, as the coin picked Toronto in that game, not me. So that's my excuse for the week. That's
excuses.
All right, let's get into this here. Buffalo at Toronto. on the 13th. We got a bunch of Friday games and a couple of Saturdays and a couple of Sundays this week. 7 games here for Week 16. Starts in Toronto. We just talked about those, Rock. Buffalo at Toronto. Evan, who you got?
The toughest one of the week to pick.
Is it?
It's crazy to think it. I think it is. Like these two teams are tied in the standings. They're evenly matched. You know, they both got forwards that are, getting back into the lineup.
Who you got?
Been there. We're going coin.
Whoa.
This one. I can't
pick.
Heads for home, Toronto.
I'm taking Toronto. I already had it written down, Evan. Not changing my pick just because you used the coin. I'm taking the Rock as well. I think Adam Jones is going to make his return to this lineup. Maybe if Schreiber and company find their groove. Dawson another week healthier. And being at home, I like Toronto in this game. I think they're going to get it done. Give me the Rock. All right. Saskatchewan at Calgary for their first meeting of the season. Still no Jesse King in the Roughneck lineup, but still a very good Calgary team coming off a victory over Toronto, now playing at home. Saskatchewan coming off that win against Vancouver. This game going down at the Saddle Dome. Who you got?
Not another easy one because you've got a Calgary team that's all of a sudden red hot. And, well, you know what? This is a fun trip for the Rush. This is the bus trip down there to Calgary. So you're going to have a big section of Rush fans there. To pick this one, I'm going to go with the Rush. And the X factor here, Evan Kirk. This is a guy that doesn't get talked about enough in the Rush lineup and what he's producing right now.
Yep.
So I think that's the X factor gets him over the top. Not that I'm putting Christian Del Bianco down by any means.
Bianco, Evan. Bianco. By the way, Bianco for you announcers out there
yes.
over the weekend. Bianco. Okay, I'm taking the Rush as well here, Evan, and I think you're dead on right about Evan Kirk, and I think it's just a case because he's only played 9 games where other teams have played 11 and 12 that he's not getting mentioned in goaltender of the year conversation because look at the numbers for Evan Kirk. And not the strongest start to the year. You'll recall, I think he got pulled in the first home game against the Black Wolves, but it's like 8, 9, 8, 6, 8, 9. Like it. He's playing maybe his best goal as a pro.
Yeah, I'm just trying to pull up the stat here, but he was north of 800. Here it is. Second in goals against average right now, 926, 812 save percentage.
Yeah.
So that's just crazy.
Pretty good. Pretty good for make him work. All right, we're both taking the Rush. Let's move on. San Diego at Vancouver. We just talked about this game, Evan. I'm going to be there for the Seals and Warriors on St. Patrick's Day. Who you got?
I think the Warriors like it when I pick against them because it gives them some incentive to go and prove me wrong. San Diego, though, has been playing red hot lately. I can't pick against them. I'm taking the Seals.
Yeah, maybe if we both double down against the Warriors here, Evan, there'll be double the motivation for them to win. I honestly want Vancouver to win this game for a multitude of reasons. So I'm going to do my part here on Lax Class and pick against them with you. Taking San Diego for pure motivation for you Warriors listeners out there. Get it done over the Seals at home.
And before we get too far, good on Paul Horn there for donating to the Diabetes Canada for the lots.
Yeah, that was very classy of him. He was a big believer that they were going to win on Saturday. Didn't happen, but put his money where his mouth is, and got to respect the Horn Dog for that. All right, Evan, we got 1, 2, 3, 4 more games to get through here. Let's roll along. Halifax at Rochester, now into Saturday action. Who you got?
Pretty simple here. It's Halifax.
Old Nighthawks against the new Nighthawks. Now the Thunderbirds, of course. Give me the T-Birds.
The interesting thing.
Yeah.
That's going to be the interesting thing is...
I think they're going to get a big crowd out for here. I bet you the Thunderbirds are going to get booed a lot, which I'm okay with.
Do they get applauded when they first come out?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think there's some bitterness there. You look at their record. You look at the new franchise's record. There's probably a little jealousy there as well. It wasn't the greatest exit out of town either. Kind of left so I think they get booed. But I'm okay with that. Like that's every fan in Blue Cross Arena's right to do that, right? Like I'm okay with it.
Well, and they lost their team, so
yeah. But they got a new one.
They got the hatred for the old one.
There you go. There you go. Regardless, we're both taking Halifax in that one. All right, this is another juicy affair here. New England at Buffalo, Evan. Who you got?
For no other reason that New England's going to be rested and Buffalo isn't, taking the Black Wolves.
I think I'm taking Buffalo here. I don't think I am, Evan. I know I'm taking Buffalo at home. I know it's back-to-back. Did you see the stat? Well, I think it was mentioned on a broadcast the other night that teams in the last decade, Evan, I was going to bring this up on Quick Sticks, but I'm going to bring it up now instead, since you continually bring up the tired travel excuse. In the last decade of National Lacrosse League action, Brian Lemon producing this, teams playing in the back-to-back in the last decade, Evan, are above 500. Give me the Bandits.
Well, I guess you want to catch up. That's your game maybe to catch up.
Book it. All right, Calgary at New England. So you want to talk about a tough turnaround here for both these teams. Calgary hosts Saskatchewan in Calgary on Friday. They go to New England for a 3 p.m. Eastern start on Sunday. So they got the day in between, so it's not as bad as I first suspected because I just saw the date.
9 hours of flying and 2 hours on a bus.
Still not an easy trip by any means here. And then you got that day in between where your body might get a little sore, right? Like you're usually okay the next day. It's the day after the day, if you know what I'm saying there, that sometimes the soreness kicks in. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Calgary at New England. Who you got?
Oh, of course, New England has the 7-hour bus ride home. So, neither team's going to be, you can't use the travel excuse. I just think that New England plays too well at home on a Sunday. Give me the Black Wolves.
Oh, they do play very well at home on Sundays. Different start time, mind you.
Coin time?
Yep, coin time it is. Here we go. Heads for home team. I'm taking the Black Wolves as well. I thought it was going to come up tails there. I really did. Kind of feel like picking Calgary, but I'm not going to go against the coin. It does have a winning record. That may change. But I'll take the Black Wolves from now. 1 game to go, and I think it's a probably pretty easy pick here, Evan. Philadelphia hosting the Riptide. Who you got?
Yeah, it's an easy pick. It's the Wings.
Wings for me as well, and not many games left for those Philly Wings. They need to get those wins, and I think they do it over New York at home on Sunday night. Man, do I love watching games from Philadelphia on NBC Sports. They just, the production.
The production is fabulous. The announcers need to learn the game better.
And I think they will. And I think they will. But I'm talking production here, and it's top notch. Like it's so good.
No, the production's amazing.
All right, time for Quick Sticks. Still looking for a sponsor for Quick Sticks. I've been in touch with a couple of people and got a couple irons in the fire here, Evan. So we may have a sponsor for Quick Sticks in the coming weeks, but for right now we don't. But it's time for Quick Sticks now. And I think the way we want to start off Quick Sticks here moving forward, at least through the back half of the season here, is I want to run down the playoff scenarios. Are you with me on this?
Yeah, because literally next week when you hear this, somebody's dropping from 1 to 7 or 2 to 5 or whatever.
So as it stands, so if you don't know, it's 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5 for the playoffs.
And no resets.
And as it starts right now, if the playoffs started this weekend, these would be the playoff matchups. Philly at New England, Buffalo at Saskatchewan, Colorado at Halifax, Georgia at Toronto. Those are 4 fantastic matchups if the playoffs were to start this weekend, which they don't, but it's just something that I want to keep an eye on as we move along.
Right, and just so everybody's aware, there is no reseeding in the second round. So the 1 versus 8 winner is guaranteed to play the 4 versus 5. The 2-7 is guaranteed to play the 3-6.
That's the way to do it. That is absolutely the way to do it. I love this playoff format. I cannot wait. Okay, so before we get into quick sticks, and I guess this is kind of part of it, but during the Halifax game against Buffalo, the commissioner joined Pete Dalladay and superstar Pat Gregoire and dropped some pretty significant information here, Evan, that I want to cover off before we get into some other stuff. So Commissioner Nick Sakiewicz going on the broadcast saying the 14th team for the National Lacrosse League will be announced. So it's a done deal and will be announced in the next 30 to 60 days. It will be a U.S. market. So we know that much. And we've all speculated Dallas, Fort Worth. We'll see what happens there. We don't know for sure, but that's 30 to 60 days, that's the timeline for them to announce this next 14th team to come in. It will be a U.S. market. Then he said that they want to get to 16. There's not going to be an expansion next year. This will be the year after that. But they want to get to 16, and right now that there's 7 markets vying for 2 remaining spots, 15 and 16 teams. So I found that to be interesting as well. 7 markets, 2 spots left to get to 16 teams, which they really want to do. Then the conference realignment will take place. The playoff matchups will be different, and everything will kind of get rejigged again. And he also said that he wants to get betting up and going through MGM for playoffs and at the start of next season, which I'm eager and interested to see that roll out.
Yeah, so let's go back to the expansion here. Now, of course, he had stated that there was going to be an expansion shortly when he was on the podcast back in November. If you want to know what happened, there's always some back and forth and deal negotiating that's got to happen. And it's never final until they sign the check for the expansion fee. And, that's just what happens. We are speculating it's Dallas-Fort Worth because there was a patent filed or trademark filed for a name in Fort Worth, but we'll see. The division realignment will happen. Now, of course, with no expansion happening next season, that means Jeff Teat is on the table for everybody. So that's confirmed. And
which
betting,
could drastically affect the trade deadline now, knowing that there's no expansion coming. Now everybody knows wherever you finish is where you're going to be slotted in the entry draft, so that could drastically affect the trade deadline coming up.
Right. And the other thing there with the betting, look, it's still going to be a little ways away because we don't have real-time stats. We don't have injury reports coming out early in the week. There's some things that need to be done before we get to that stage of full-on gambling.
Yeah, and hopefully they can get that together for playoff time. I want to see it roll out in time for that. I think that would be pretty cool as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. But some pretty telling stuff there coming from Commissioner Sakiewicz, who always seems to kind of drop a few nuggets whenever he steps in front of a camera or a microphone, which I love. I absolutely love that he does that. Milestones, and we don't want to get too far into it here, but I do want to touch on one Dangerous Dan Dawson who hit a couple of big ones over the weekend.
Yeah, he's what now, second all-time?
Second all-time assists, passing Josh Sanderson for...
just got some guy named Tavares to pass,
Yeah, get well.
No
he might get there, man.
But you know what, he's not that far off. He's, 30 or 40 off?
Yeah, I think he's
way behind in points, but, in assists, he's not that far behind.
Yeah. No, he's going to get there, man. He's going to... he's not done this year. I think he's going to play another year.
Oh, easily. I think he's on top of his game. Why quit now?
Here you go. This is the Box Lacrosse podcast, but I called the high school field lacrosse all-star game last weekend, Evan, and a champion was crowned just a couple of days later. And it just happens to be my alma mater in the Centennial Centaurs are the BC high school field lacrosse champions, beating my other former school in the Charles Best. They were called the Blue Devils back when I was there. They're called something else now. I don't like it, and I can't remember what it is. Doesn't matter. Centaurs are champions, so I had to get that in there. I heard the word.
Did you get kicked out of one of the schools that you had to go to two?
Well, I actually. Back in my day, Evan, we used to have junior high schools and then high schools. So my junior high was grade 8 through 10, and then my high school was grade 11 and 12. So yes, I did get kicked out of my junior high school at the end of grade 9, Montgomery. Had to attend a different junior high school, Charles Best, for grade 10, and then attended high school where my father was a teacher. I wasn't getting kicked out of there for grade 11 and 12. So there you go. I was a bit of a bad boy in school, Evan.
Oh, no, not you.
Yeah, a little bit. Okay, so congrats to the Centaurs, Ian Radnich and the gang there on getting it done at Provincials. I think Gick has been in touch with Michael Winkler at Stampede to get himself a new cowboy hat. We made that happen.
Michael Winkler?
Yeah, Kevin.
Oh, it was Kevin.
Yeah, that's his last name, Michael Winkler.
Oh. Okay.
Hyphenated, Evan. Hyphenated. Kevin,
okay.
Michael Winkler.
I knew him as Michael, so okay.
So yeah, we got Gick a new hat, which he desperately needed.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't know what it was he was wearing there, but the guys in the group chat were calling for an intervention. So good thing he's got something good.
Kevin stepped up, and Tyson will be a better man for it. I heard the word ball drop over the weekend again, Evan, and if I had any hair, I would have pulled it out of my head. Please stop saying this, people. There is no such thing in lacrosse as a ball drop. It's called a face-off. Always has, always will be. Stop saying ball drop.
What is this, the PLL All-Star game where they actually did drop the ball?
Well, it's ridiculous. Stop saying it. The water squirt was a bit of a topic of conversation this weekend. A penalty being delegated out in Philadelphia. Chopper, the receiver of the water squirt, quite upset that the New England player was given a penalty for the whole situation. What do you make of all this?
I mean, Mr. Lemon's going to be reviewing this, and the penalty box cam showed that the water hit the middle of the glass. So I get why the NLL wants to clamp down on this a bit. You don't see it in the NHL. But by the same token, the NLL is a different league, and there's a lot of fan-player interaction. So as long as it's all in good nature, you know, when I talk to Billy, it's like,
I know.
You know,
he thinks it's like a badge of honor, right? It's like a badge of honor to him to get a player to squirt him with water. But all I do, Evan, is I think about Ty Domi in Philadelphia squirting that, and next thing you know, the guy's inside the penalty box and is bleeding out of his forehead, and you just. If these guys want to get on level, and I'm fully on board with the NHL and the NBA, you can't have that sort of thing. And I get it, but I don't get it. And lesson learned there. Don't do it again.
But
just don't do it.
I don't think Colton Watkinson should have got a game misconduct.
Well,
for that.
If that's what it takes, though,
okay.
If that's what it takes to send the message to the rest of the league not to do that, then I'm okay with it.
Well, I guess we'll see on Thursday night when we get the disciplinary report.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, bad mistake, and I think was just trying to have a little fun, but it's a sketchy line that you just can't cross because the ramifications that can come out of that are way exceed the fun, playful nature that the action.
Like with Pilly and Chopper, there's one thing.
Right.
But what we saw in
Vegas,
get
some liquored up fan that's got a beer in his hand and gets squirted with water. Next thing you know, he's coming over the boards, dumping a beer, and then all hell's breaking loose. So don't do it. Pretty simple, and that's where I draw the line at that. Last thing I want to mention here is we had the emergency backup goaltender legend David Ayers at morning shoot-around for Saskatchewan shoot-around and had him up on the broadcast at halftime for the game. This guy is like the most nice, genuine, friendly, outgoing. He threw the pads on for shoot-around, went in there, had a couple of shots on him. Jammer Derek Keenan sniped one on him, top corner. What a dude this guy is.
Yeah, I know Keenan was kind of celebrating that because
he stared him down.
Together.
Stared him right down after he put a top corner on him. I love it.
But for this guy, who's has a little more than 15 minutes of fame, it's good on him that he's using this to raise awareness and money for organ donation.
Yeah.
just the nicest guy, absolutely fabulous. Who knows? He might have been the emergency call and goal. He had somebody.
He wasn't bad, man. Like, he made some saves. Like, he wasn't afraid of the ball. His stance was a little funky, but, like, he made the stops, and he wasn't, like, you know, you get somebody in those pads for the first time, and guys whipping balls, they kind of like, ooh, like, he was like, shoot it harder, don't be shy, like, let it fly, I want to see what it's like, and pretty cool. Wife in tow as well. She was a beauty, and it was just a great experience all around.
She's a beauty on Twitter. I don't know if you follow her.
Yeah, she gave me a follow, and I was pretty pumped about that as well. I still you got to find the 50-50 number for me, Evan, because I feel like I won, but I can't find the number anywhere. So if you could take that upon yourself,
started with U25.
U25. Okay, maybe I did one. I'll just crumple that up right now then. Okay. Last thing I want to mention here before we let you go on Lax Class is some pretty serious stuff here, Evan, and it's the coronavirus. And, I mean, everybody, if you don't know by now, knows what's happening here throughout the world and this virus. And the National Lacrosse League coming out with a statement last week, and it's this is very serious stuff here. And I don't want to get too far into it, Evan, but I want to tell people to be smart and, if nothing else, like, follow the instructions of the health professionals. Listen to the experts about what they're telling you in regards to washing your hands all the time, covering your mouth when you got a cough. Be as sanitary and as hygienically aware as you can be to try and help this. And God forbid, if you start to feel sick, stay home. You know, for us, Evan, for middle-aged guys and adults and even young children, you know, I'm not talking infants, but it's that the people that are the most at risk here are the elderly and very young children. For us in the middle, yeah, we'll get sick, but we're not going to die. But if you can help prevent and contain this in any way, shape, or form, please use your common sense and just wash your hands, people. Like that. Wash your hands.
Yeah. No, for those that don't know, I just started another half-time job at a museum here in Saskatoon. Well, Heritage Center, more than a museum. But we had to go and spend almost the entire day today, even though there's not a single case in Saskatchewan yet, but going through what do we do? You know, we're going to have major crowds coming here. You know, and we got to have a plan in place when it comes that we know what we're going to do.
Yeah.
I think the big question, though, remains is what's going to happen to games in the future if this continues. New York is now starting to get a major outbreak, so there's some questions there. But when you look at it, like Italy now, all sports are canceled for the entire month of March. Bahrain Grand Prix is going to be raced with no crowd.
Oh, so Women's World Hockey Championships shut down.
Yeah.
So
Indian Wells, the fifth biggest tennis tournament, is canceled because of it. So,
yeah. So some
the
teams
NHL's looking at it, the NBA's looking at it. You know,
some
don't
teams
be too disappointed if games get postponed or canceled because of safety.
Yeah, sorry, Evan. Some teams are getting to the point now or some leagues are getting to the point now where they're playing games with no fans in the stands. They're closing the doors, no media allowed in the locker rooms. All sorts of precautions are being taken place. But this just goes out to the general public. Just listen to the experts, follow instructions, and wash your hands and cover your mouth when you cough. Or if you're feeling sick, stay home. That's the basic trio, right? Cover your mouth, wash your hands, stay home if you feel sick, and try and help.
I sent a couple of people home today just because, like, you know what, we're not going to risk it. Just go home and get better.
Yeah, so there you go. So I wanted to get that in. I know it's a bit of a downer to have to talk about that, but it's a real thing in our world that is pretty serious, and it needs to be discussed. All right, Evan, another massive episode there of Lax Class number 70 is in the books. Big thanks to Ben McIntosh and Todd Labranche for coming on the program. Don't forget to sign up for Who You Got every single week. We're getting more and more contestants as the weeks go by. This is awesome. All working our way to that grand Blundstone Prize at the end of the regular season. To Todd Labranche for coming on the program. That was super cool to have an official and kind of get an inside look on what it means and what it takes to be an NLL referee. To our sponsors, of course, Stampede Tack, Vancouver Warriors, Associated Labels and Packaging, which I totally missed at the start of the show. Big thank you to Sean Ashworth and the gang there at Associated Labels and Packaging. I screwed up. That's on me. Subscribe to the podcast, people. Wherever you listen to your podcasts, hit that subscribe button. Throw us a review as well if you want to do that. That would be pretty cool. I never really ask for that, but if you want to throw a review down on iTunes or something like that, Spotify, please feel free. Negative or positive, I'm not afraid. And follow us on social media, at LaxClass, at PXP for sports, and at ShemLax. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You'll find Lacrosse Classified everywhere. But you won't find us again until next Tuesday, and that's when our next podcast will come out right here on the Lacrosse All-Stars Podcast Network. But for now, we're out of here. For Evan Schemenauer, I've been Jake Elliott. And for the fastest game on 2 feet, and for the creator, enjoy the games, everybody.